See? Okay.
Okay, we'll discuss the issue of whether or to what extent someone is obligated or allowed to risk his life for the sake of either performing a mitzvah or refraining from doing an avera. And it's going to be based on the story in our parsha. So the parsha tells us a story about how Yaakov is sending his son Yosef to the city of Shechem to check on his brothers. His brothers were shepherds, they had their flock over there, they went around Shechem. So Yaakov was living down in Hebron, which is quite a distance. So he is sending his son Yosef to check on his sons to see what's going on. So the Torah tells us Yosef goes, when he goes to Shechem, he looks around, he doesn't find his brothers. He meets a person, Ha'ish, that's how it's described. He meets a person. And the person asks him, what are you looking for? So he tells them, I'm looking for my brothers. My brothers, I want to see where they are with their flock, their sheep. I want to know where they are. So he tells them they are not here. They traveled somewhere else. They traveled somewhere else. They traveled to the place called Dotan. I heard that they were saying, this is what he says, I heard that they were saying, let's go to Dotan. And indeed, Yosef goes to Dotan and he finds his brothers over there. And then the story goes on about how they were trying to kill him, and then they didn't kill him, instead they put him in a deep hole in the pit. And the whole story goes on how he was sold to Egypt from there. So obviously the first thing which we think about when you read the story is why are all of those details important? Well, I understand that the story about how Yosef got to Mitzrayim is important. Okay, so Yaakov sent him to find his brothers, he goes with his brothers tell him. Why does the Torah have to tell us all of those stages? He went to one place, they weren't there, he met the person told him to go to another place. These seem to be details which are unimportant, not irrelevant to the story. So the Mefarshim, both in Chazal and Rashi, they tell us that there is more to it than what we see in the first glance. That person, that Ish, wasn't really a human being. It was an angel, a malach. Specifically, the malach Gabriel. And what he was trying to tell Yosef when he says, Shamati omrim nelcha dotaina, I heard this, they were saying they wanted to go to Dotan. He was hinting him something in those words. Rashi uses the term, I heard that they were saying, Nevakesh nichlei datot lahamitcha. He was hinting him, you should know, your brothers are not very friendly. They are plotting, I heard them already, they are plotting against you. They are plotting to kill you. This is all hinted in the words. So, why did he tell him that? He was, of course, trying to tell him, don't go there. You know, it's dangerous. You have 10 brothers over there, you are one. They are plotting against you. Don't go there.
And why only hinting?
Okay, now we will talk about it soon, whether he was hinting, or maybe he did say explicitly, and only the Torah is hinting it to us. We will find that the different commentaries differ on that. But what did Yosef do? We know he did go there. So why did he do that? If we know that his life is in danger, why did he still go there to meet his brothers in Dotan? So the Ramban says, on the Pasuk, the Ramban tells us, Yosef didn't get the hint. The Malach didn't say explicitly, probably because he wasn't allowed to. A Malach can't do whatever he wants. He could only do what Hashem tells him to do. Hashem probably didn't let him to explicitly tell Yosef, only to hint. Yosef didn't get the hint. He thought he was simply telling him they went to that place, so he went there. But if Yosef would have gotten the hint, he wouldn't go there. He wouldn't endanger himself. That's what the Ramban says. The Malach was hinting. However, Yosef didn't get the hint, and this is why he went to his brothers to Dotan. However, if you look at what Rashi says, both here in the Torah, the Pasuk, and what also he said in the Gemara, from Rashi it's pretty clear that the Malach didn't hint it to Yosef. The Malach actually said it explicitly. The Torah hints it to us. But the Malach actually told him, it's dangerous, your brother are plotting against you, and still Yosef went there. So obviously, according to Rashi, we are faced with the question, why did he do that?
So it wasn't even a misinterpretation of the message.
There was no misinterpretation. Yosef got it clearly. He knew that it's dangerous to go there, and he still went there. Why did he do that?
His father told him.
Oh, so here we have the issue. His father told him. There is a mitzvah, kibud avahem. When your father tells him, asks you something, asks you a favor, so you have to fulfill, you have to do that. You have to fulfill the favor. The question is, we have here a mitzvah of kibud avahem, but we have a danger. Do you have to risk your life for the performance of that mitzvah? So we'll go into, let's say, a general review of the rules about risking your life on a mitzvah. There are cases, specific cases, when one is obligated to risk your life or even give up your life for the sake of mitzvah. What are those cases? So first of all, there are 3 specific mitzvot or averot which you have to refrain from doing the averah even at the expense of giving up your life.
Yarek v'al yavam.
Yarek v'al yavam. These 3 averot are first, worshipping idols. You're not allowed to worship idols even under threat of death. Now, nowadays, fortunately, it's not very common to face this choice. But throughout the generations, it was very common. It was very common. Jews were many times facing a choice between either converting to Christianity mainly, or giving up their lives. Christianity is considered avodah zarah for Jews. So converting to Christianity is equal to worshipping idols.
As opposed to Islam.
As opposed to Islam, right. Because the Muslims don't consider Muhammad a god. As opposed to Christians, which do consider their person a god. So therefore Christianity is considered avodah zarah. So when a Yid is faced with a choice of either converting or dying, he has to choose death. Because it's considered idol worshipping, so you are required to give up your life and not worship idols. Another thing which also is obvious is the prohibition against killing. If you are told either you kill that person or you get killed yourself, you are not allowed to kill that person. Because the Gemara says about it, why do you think that your blood is more red than the other person's blood? So there is no reason to justify you killing someone else instead to save yourselves. So, for example, we know there is.
What are we doing with Hakam Leorgecha? Ashkem Leorgecha.
That's a different case. When this person is trying to kill you, then his blood is indeed less red than yours, because he is the one who is trying to kill you right now. When that person is trying to kill you, then you are allowed and required to kill him before he manages to do that. But if you are asked to kill an innocent person, if you're asked to kill an innocent person or be killed, that's when you have to allow yourself to be killed and not kill the other person. So, for example, if we talk about there is that thing with these books going around, what's called the Hunger Games or these kind of things. So if they went according to halacha, they would have to refuse to take part in that thing, even at the expense of being killed. You are not allowed to kill someone else, an innocent person, in order to save yourself. So that's the second case in which you are required to risk your life in order not to do an avirah. A third case is adultery. Having relations with someone which is prohibited is considered as severe as murder. And if you are if you have a choice between either that or get killed, you have to get killed. Those are the three cases, three mitzvot, where in every case you have to give up your life and not to do the avirah. Now here we're not having any of these, right?
There's one other one, I think. Well, it's not in the three, but there's a.
I'll mention the other cases are not specific mitzvot, but more general rules. These are the three specific mitzvot. Now, in the case of Yosef, we know, of course, it wasn't any of these three mitzvot. Mitzvah of kibud avaim is not one of the three mitzvot which you have to give up your life for. There are two more cases which are not specific mitzvot, but general conditions in which you have to give away your life on any mitzvah. One case is if it's in public and the person is trying to cause you to do the avirah for this specific sake. He wants you to do the avirah. He's not doing it for his own benefit. If you have a goy who holds head in front of you of piece of chazir, and he tells you, the goy doesn't have any benefit from you eating the chazir. He only wants you to do the avirah. And it's in public, of many Jews around, and he tells you, either you eat the chazir or I kill you, then this is considered mitzvah kiddush Hashem. Since it's in public, and the purpose of the goy's purpose is to force you to do the avirah, you are required to be mekadesh Hashem, which means to give up your life and not to do this avirah, even though it's not part of this.
Like, for example, Antiochus in the Azara, Chana v'Shivat Banea.
Okay, in Chana v'Shivat Banea was actually a case of Azara. So they would have, so obviously they would have to give up your life regardless. But even if it's not the case of Azara and any other mitzvah, if it's in public and the goy is trying to force you to do the avirah for its own sake, then you have to give up your life. That's one general condition. And another condition is called Sh'at HaShmad. Sh'at HaShmad is when we are during the times when a goy, when there are gzerot, when there are laws against performing mitzvot. Laws which are trying to prevent the Yidden from performing mitzvot. Then even if it's not in public, even if it's private, it says even on a small minhag, the Gemara gives an example. There used to be Arkisa de Mesana. The Gemara gives an example. That Jews throughout the generations, Jews used to have different clothes than Goyim. They used to be, you would be able to recognize a Jew by his clothes. One of the examples was that the Goyim used to have their shoes, they used to have black shoelaces. And Jews used to have white shoelaces. To
distinguish.
It's not a mitzvah, it's not a halacha, it's just a common difference between a Jew and a Goy and a Jew. So the Gemara says, if it's in those specific times, when there are gzerot, when there are laws against performing mitzvot, even if the only thing they're trying to tell you is either wear black shoelaces or we kill you, you have to give up your life and not wear black shoelaces.
What are we doing with Et Lasot Lashem? Eferu Toratecha.
Okay, Et Lasot Lashem and Eferu Toratecha is a different concept. This is the concept which you can't decide for yourself. The great rabbis of a generation, they are allowed to decide that you are allowed that the people you could go against a certain mitzvah for the sake of a greater mitzvah. That's on a case by case basis by the great Talmidei Chachamim of the generation. This is
not a general rule.
There's a case by case basis. It's a case by case basis where the general Beit Din, the great Talmidei Chachamim of the generation, could decide that right now you have to forego a certain mitzvah for something else, for a greater thing. But here we're talking about general rules. So in general rules, as we said, there are, we could say, 3 specific mitzvot where you have to give up your life. As we said, Avodah Zarah, Gilui Arayot, and Shfichut Damim. And 2 general cases where you have to give up your life on any mitzvah. One case is when it's done in public for the sake of doing the Avirah. And another case is when we are talking about Sh'at HaShmat, time when there are Gzerot, laws against performing mitzvot. Now if we go back to the case of Yosef, none of these applies, obviously. It's not one of the 3 mitzvot. The brothers of Yosef wanted to kill him, but their purpose wasn't to prevent him from being Mikayim mitzvah. So it doesn't go under the public case.
According to Rashi, if you knew it would be written in the Torah, it would be public.
Even if it's public, the only time you have to give up your life is if the purpose of the person who kills you is to cause you to go against the mitzvah.
It doesn't have any other benefit than that.
Yeah, it doesn't have any better. Here, this wasn't the case. The purpose of the Yosef's brothers wasn't to prevent him from performing a mitzvah. So even if it is in public, there is still no requirement to give up your life. And of course, it wasn't Sh'at HaShmat. There was no gzerot against performing a mitzvah. So we go back to the question, why did Yosef risk himself? According to Rashi, according to the Ramban, he didn't. So first of all, there is a general dispute between the Rishonim, between the Poskim. In case when you are not required to give up your life for the mitzvah, are you still allowed to do that if you choose? So the Rambam says clearly, for example, Psak and Mishneh Torah, no, you're not allowed, there's no choice over here. If you're not required to give up your life, you're not allowed to give up your life. If someone gives up his life in case where he doesn't have to, the Rambam says very severe words. He is considered as if he is taking his own life, which is a severe avera. However, there was a dispute about it. Some other poskim Rishonim, especially the Balei HaTosfot, they say that as a person is allowed, even in the case when he is not required to give up his life, he is still allowed to do that. Not only is he allowed, but it would be considered a mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem. You don't have to. The Torah doesn't require you to do that. But if you feel that the mitzvah is very important to you, and you refuse to do the Averah, then yes, you are allowed to do that.
Nowadays, there is a big discussion to define Kiddush Hashem. For example, Milchemet Mitzvah, which we know, but today's situation in Israel, we are using very often the term Kiddush Hashem.
Okay, that's really a secondary definition of Kiddush Hashem. The first definition of Kiddush Hashem.
Provocation.
Yeah, the first definition of Kiddush Hashem is when you are given a choice.
When?
When you are given a choice. When you have a choice whether to give up your life or not, and you choose to give up your life. That's the basic, primary definition of Kiddush Hashem. There is also a secondary definition of Kiddush Hashem, which is, for example, everyone who passed away and perished in the Holocaust is considered died al Kiddush Hashem. Why? Because he died for being a Jew. Even though he didn't face a choice, he didn't have a choice in the matter, right? But dying for being a Jew, for helping Jews, for doing something for the sake of the Jewish people, that's a secondary definition of Kiddush Hashem, even if you're not given a choice. But here we're talking about the primary definition of Kiddush Hashem, which is when you are given a choice and you choose to be Mekadesh Hashem, meaning to give up your life for the sake of a greater cause, a mitzvah, for example. So, if we go back to Yosef, we could simply say that the dispute between Rashi and the Ramban corresponds to that dispute of whether a person is allowed to give up his life or not. The Ramban says that Yosef, and the only reason Yosef went there was because he didn't get the hint of the Malach, right? If he would have gotten the hint, he wouldn't go there. This is because he goes along the Shita, along the idea of the Rambam, where he says you are not allowed to give up your life if you don't have to. Since in this case Yosef didn't have to give up his life, the mitzvah of Kibud Av is not that important, then therefore he wasn't allowed to do that, so the only way he went there was because he didn't get the hint. That's according to the Ramban. However, Rashi, who says that Yosef did get the hint, not only get the hint, in fact the Malach told him that explicitly, and he still went, that's because Rashi goes along the line of the other poskim, the Balei HaTosfot, who tell him that you are allowed to give up your life even when you're not required to. So we have here the Rashi and the Ramban about Yosef, which are going along two different opinions. The question is whether you are allowed to give up your life for the sake of a mitzvah. The Ramban says no, you're not allowed to give up your life. Therefore, Yosef wouldn't have went there if he got the hint. The only reason he went there was because he didn't get the hint. Rashi says, no, you are allowed to give up your life for the sake of a mitzvah even when you are not required to. Yosef had a mitzvah of honoring his father by going to his brothers and seeing what's going on with them. So for Yosef, this mitzvah of Kibud Av was that important that he decided, even though I'm not required to, I will risk my life, I will go to Dotan and find my brothers and do what my father's shlichut. That's one way of looking at it. But there is still a problem here. It's not so simple. Why is that? When is it that you are allowed, according to that opinion, to risk your life for the sake of the mitzvah? If the mitzvah will actually be performed regardless, if risking your life, which will actually also prevent you from performing the mitzvah, then there is no benefit in risking your life. For example, let's give you an example. You are, right now it's the night of Pesach. You want to perform the mitzvah of eating matzah. But you have no matzah. You are in Siberia or in a concentration camp. You were sent, and there's no matzah around. Now you heard that in a certain place there is matzah, but going there is dangerous. It's dangerous because there are guards, and if you pass the door, they will kill you. Are you allowed to go there to take the matzah? The answer is no. Because you are not going to eat the matzah regardless.
If they catch you.
If they catch you, which is there's a big chance they will catch you. So if you go there and they kill you, then you gave up your life and you didn't perform the mitzvah. So there is no benefit at all. You just gave up your life for nothing. So in this case, everyone agrees that you're not allowed to give up your life. So this seems to be the case here too. Because what did Yosef's father tell? What did Yaakov tell Yosef? Go to your brothers, check on them, see what's going on, and v'hashiveni davar, come back and tell me what's going on. There is no purpose in just checking on them and not coming back. Right? So if Yosef goes there, and they get rid of him, chas v'shalom, then the shlichut was not performed either. Not only was he killed, but the shlichut was not performed. He didn't fulfill what his father asked him to do. So we are back to square one. How was Yosef allowed to danger his life in that case in order to perform the mitzvah? So one possible way to explain that is there is one more case, not very known. There is one of the poskim, he says, and the Rambam, he says. There is one specific case where one is allowed to give his life not only according to the Balei HaTosfot, but even according to the Rambam. And that's actually the Bet Yosef in his Pirush Kesef Mishnah. He said it on the Rambam. What's this case? He says, if im hador parutz, if you are a righteous person, and there is a certain issue which the generation in general is a mitzvah which they don't consider important, they keep not fulfilling the mitzvah, or they keep doing a certain avera. So you are allowed, if you are a righteous person, you are allowed to make a decision. I will give up my life so that everyone knows the importance, they will get the importance of the mitzvah. It's not for the actual performance of the mitzvah. It's to get, so the generation, that everyone around will see how important the mitzvah is, that I was ready, I was prepared to give up my life for that sake.
And there is such a case.
Now, who is the generation when we are talking about that time? Who are the Jewish people? The generation we are talking about the Jewish people. The Jewish people are Yaakov's sons. There are no other Jewish people around. So if we are asking the generation who is parutz, the generation who is not careful about a certain mitzvah, who is the generation? Yosef's brothers. Now Yosef's brothers had a deficiency, let's say. The mitzvah of Kibud Av wasn't very strong by them. And we can see in many cases previously. For example, we saw in the parasha of last week, when their sister, when Dinah was captured, was taken by Shechem. So Shimon and Levi, Yosef's brothers, they went ahead and did a whole massacre of the entire city of Shechem against the will of their father.
Without consulting him.
Without consulting him, and there was a reason why they didn't consult him. They knew that he wouldn't allow them to do that. So they said, okay, let's not consult him.
Also, the answer, without him asking, the brothers shouted out that they...
Yeah, they took care of the situation themselves. They said, let the old man, we'll take care of the situation. The old man is too weak here. We will deal with the issue. This was deficiency in Kibud Av. Or for example, the very fact that they hated Yosef while his father loved him. His father loved him, his father cherished him. It was his only son from Rachel, his beloved wife. Afterwards, it was also Binyamin, but Binyamin was a baby, and he was the son of Rachel, which he loved. And they didn't respect their father's love for Yosef.
But they had a human being reaction, jealousy.
Okay, you can't talk about what their feelings was. Okay, their feeling is one thing. They felt jealousy, could understand. But if they were being mechabed their father, if they had respect for their father, they would say, even though we are jealous, we have to control our jealousy because that's our father's choice, right?
It's his opinion. If they honor his opinion, then...
Yeah, that's the idea of honoring your father, right? Even if I don't feel like it, I should still honor his decision, right? So they would have said, yes, we think what our father is doing is not right. They could have thought that way. The fact that our father shows preference to Yosef is not right. And we feel jealous about it. We don't like it. However, we have to respect it. That's our father, right? So by not only having jealousy in their heart, but actually plotting against Yosef, this was a terrible transgression against Kibud Av, right? Against honoring their father. You see what happened afterwards. They lied to their father. They were thought they planned to kill Yosef. They actually threw him away in the pit. And then they killed that goat, and they brought the father and told them, yeah, Yosef died. You see that this is not Kibud Av. This is not respect for their father. So Yosef saw here the generation, or meaning my brothers, they have a clear lack of Kibud Av. They don't respect that mitzvah. So I am now going to show them how great this mitzvah is, that when my father tells me to go and check on them, I will do that even if I risk my life. So here it doesn't matter anymore if the mitzvah will be performed. What matters is that the brothers are going to get the importance of that mitzvah.
הגמרא calls it הרע היתר לעצמו.
So Yosef, this is...
He permitted himself, הוא הרשה לעצמו.
So this was...
לעשות, יוסף.
Yeah.
זה trouvé une façon...
אבא שלה גם כן רמאי.
זה כבר סיפור.
So this was Yosef's line of thought. This is the way to explain Yosef's line of thought. He knew that the mitzvah of Kibud Av is a mitzvah which his brothers constituted an entire generation at the time of Jews. His brothers are not careful about this mitzvah. Being that they are not careful about this mitzvah, I need to teach them a lesson about the importance of that mitzvah. How am I going to teach them that lesson? By doing as much as I can to do what my father instructed me to do, even by risking my life.
That's the Beis Yosef.
According to the Beit Yosef, this is the way the Beit Yosef explains the behavior of Yosef. Okay.
על זה נאמר, והיה בית יוסף להבה.
והיה בית יוסף להבה ובית עשיו לקש. So the house of Yosef will be like a flame, and the house of Esav will be like kash, like straw. You know, straw doesn't take a lot of time to burn. It just in a second goes away. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the power of Yosef.
Case is black and white. But תנו לנו אחד מכם, ואם לא נהרוג את כולכם, אני לא הורג אף אחד, ואסור לתת. אותו דבר היה...
Go ahead in Hebrew.
Non, mais il ne comprend pas l'hébreu. Yiddish? Anglais? Bon, mon anglais, tu le comprendras.
Unfortunately, I don't understand French.
There was a problem, for example, near Slobodka. The Germans give 2,000 or 3,000 people for workers. There was much more Jews, and we know, they know, that who is not working will be killed.
So there was a dilemma.
Voilà. It's not only that they ask, I have to kill. It's indirectly. It's a big, big problem. White and black is easy, the remainder is much more.
During the Holocaust,
especially people who face the problem.
Yeah, during the Holocaust, there were many cases where there were very dangerous problems. There was a famous story about a person who had some connections, let's say, and
you are referring now to Castro.
That's
similar.
No, it's a different person. A person who had some connections, and he was given another. He heard that the Nazis were planning to take a certain amount of children from a place, and he had a son, and he had a way to make sure that his son is not going to be among those. And he came and he asked the rabbi, "Am I allowed to use my connections just to make sure that my son is not among them?"
Your grandfather.
And the rabbi told him, "It's very hard for me to answer this question,
yes.
But you are not allowed, because by making sure your son is not one of them, you are causing another person to be part of that group."
And obviously it wasn't an option to remove everyone, I suppose.
No, it's an option to remove your son, and if you don't remove your son, someone else is going to get in this place. The rabbi said, as hard as it is for me to answer this question, the question is, no, you can't. The answer is, no, you can't. And indeed, and he did what the rabbi told him, and his son perished. That's you can't imagine how great. It's a Akedas Yitzchak Mamash.
Rabbi Lieberman had brought this story to us. He told us this situation. Rabbi Lieberman told us this. It's a Gebei Nafal.
Yeah. Okay.